Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined as always by my guy, Nate Weitzer, on the East Coast. We are rolling on, Nate, with these NBA playoffs. We're going to talk Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Game 4. Game 3 was almost a blowout until the Nets came right back into it in the first half, and we had a pretty good game, but a super low total there. We'll look to get you guys a gift card prop in the next video, but do make sure you're liked and subscribed to the page. Jump in the comments and let us know who you guys are betting on this playoffs. We're interested in seeing everything that you guys are having fun talking to you guys in the comments there. And if you still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find all those local listings in your area. Plenty of NBA playoff promo specials for you. So let's jump into Game 4, Bucks Nets, Nate.
Yeah, it seems like the odds makers are trying to get ahead of the curve here. They listed the Nets as underdogs in Game 3. Now they're slight favorites, -2 in Game 4. Milwaukee's plus 115 on the money line, and the total is sitting around 230. I expect it'll drop a little bit before it closes, given the fact that what we combined for 169 in Game 3. Lowest point total for the Nets all season, 83. It was basically Kevin Durant and nobody else. And I just said to you, Josh, that, wasn't this almost the exact same thing that happened in Boston? Not in terms of the final score, but just in the role players falling off. Joe Harris having a horrible shooting night, Kyrie having a rough shooting night as the 1B option. And then we know what happened in Game 4, another Nets eruption, Kyrie, another super efficient game. I think that we can still get value on that under. That's now 5 straight meetings between these teams that have gone under, in part because they're the top 2 scoring teams in the league, and the total's set usually over 240. But in the playoffs, it's definitely a little more reliable that they're going to buckle down. And I'm not really confident in the Bucks offense. I don't see it as a good sign that Middleton and Giannis produce 80% of their points. I think that Giannis, once again, just not involved down the stretch, which you haven't really seen in the playoffs at all, because he can't really generate his own shot if the refs aren't going to bail him out as an attacker. And Middleton had a nice game, but in the previous 2 was generally shut down. I just think that the Nets, this was the game that they wanted to drop. I thought they would drop 1, and now you can still get them plus 200 to win this in 5, or you can get -140 for them to win it in 5 or 6 on the series line. And I fully expect them to bounce back and win Game 4.
Yeah, I think the trend of what we saw in that Boston series is definitely something that we can look at here. I hate it. It's a make or miss league, Nate. This was just a clear-cut example of the non-stars and honestly Kyrie for the Nets not showing up in a game big enough and really just shooting well enough. Joe Harris, 1 of 11 3-points. He's become a guy they count on 4 points when James Harden's not around. We've all been saying, oh, yeah, the Nets just keep rolling without James Harden. And that is because of the role players. That is because of the Mike Jameses and the Bruce Browns and the Blake Griffins and the Joe Harrises. And those specific players did not show up in Game 3. And conversely, Giannis and Middleton did show up, like you said. But, the playoffs, it's a different beast than the regular season. As we, targeted certain aspects of games and strategies during the regular season, we're looking at things like who's playing. Does anybody have something to play for? How well does this team play against this, particular conference or on this amount of rest? It's not quite that anymore, right? It's just the expectation of the stars having the balls in their hand. And then with the playoffs, there's always the X factor of who is the other 3rd or 4th or 5th guy on the squad that's going to show up for a title contender like the Nets. And I think this is the game that, you come back and you go, we're locked in. KD's not going to come out that slow. He didn't take enough shots in the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the game. And they, received that onslaught from the Bucks at that point. And then obviously, I think we both said it in Game 3, like you said, we expected the Bucks to come out with firepower, and they did. But the thing that we're looking at the next game is how did they win? Why did they win? And the reasons, to your point, 80% of your points coming from Giannis and Middleton. Drew Holiday going 4 of 14 from the floor. Giannis still 4 of 9 from the line, 1 of 8 from 3-point land, does not need to be taking 8 3-pointers. I appreciate him keeping the defense honest. I think you can do that with 3 to 4 3-pointers a game. They stopped running pick and roll with Giannis as the roll man way too early in the game. That was a ton of points that he scored in the first quarter, specifically when they were, terrorizing the Nets there. That was either Middleton or Drew Holiday, handling the ball with Giannis playing that pick and roll position there. And that was what worked for them. They went away from it. Giannis started to want the ball in his hands. That allowed the Nets to put their wall up with their, 3 or 4 guys standing in the paint, stopping him with no fear of PJ Tucker's shot. And at this point, Drew Holiday not proving that he can put the ball in from long range as well. So, I think it's interesting. Like you said, Vegas tries to get ahead of this by maybe outsmarting us and going, okay, the tide has turned. Do you believe in the Bucks now that the Nets still don't have Harden? And the answer for, I think, most of us is no. I think it wouldn't have surprised me if Brooklyn pulled out that game. They just put themselves in too big of a hole. And I don't expect that to be the case here. I think you get great odds on winning in 5, and at the very least 6. And like you said, you can get either of those and still get plus on your money. And so I think that's the way to go. And then in this particular game, I'm going to eye the Nets coming out a lot stronger in the first half. And taking that line from them at about 0.5, I think the line is for the first half. So I'm really feeling good about the Nets in this game. I know we said that last one, but we did mention that it was the one game we were worried about. So.
And they still covered 3.5.
Yep.
So yeah, that was just a gift from the odds makers. I mean, to your point, the Bucks are not shooting. They're shooting 20 for 88. That's 22% from 3 in this series. And it's not because, Brooklyn's just choosing the right guys to shoot. It's because they're closing out and playing excellent defense, as well as identifying guys like Giannis, who they're going to live with if he wants to take threes. So I think that just speaks to the under again. It's just really impressive that the Nets can fall into that hole and then ratchet up the defense to the point that they led 83-80 in the final minutes. When you can do that, I don't see how you're gonna let the Bucks get to their team total. How you're gonna let this game get over 230 in a win. If you parlay Nets and that under, you get plus 245. And I would also look at just the Nets winning a closer one. Nets to win by 1 to 10 points is plus 180 at FanDuel. I don't think it's going to be a blowout in Milwaukee, but I just think that the combination of KD and Kyrie is much more confident in closing time than just Chris Middleton, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one other aspect we talk about consistently is the live betting aspect of the playoffs. The teams that do really well in that third quarter, right, they make a statement. And so I think not only that, if we do see, 229.5, that sounds scary in a Bucks Nets game. But as we mentioned, it's the playoffs. If you do see the Nets come out really hot in the first quarter, as I'm going to take them in that first quarter or first half, I want to see what those lines look like as we're recording this. We don't have the specifics, but I want to see what that ends at before I grab it. And then at the same time, that total 230, if you do see a pretty high scoring first quarter around 60 points, you might get that total above 230 and then feel even better about taking the under, because I think by the third quarter, the total of this game is going to drop a solid 5 to 6 points from that 229 start of the game. So either way, Nate, I know we'll be watching that, texting back and forth, watching what happens with the Nets. Bucks game 4. Make sure you like and subscribe to that page. Jump in the comments. Let us know who you guys are betting on in this game. Some of those player props you're looking at. Really interested in jumping in there with you guys. So until we are back with another video for the next playoff game, y'all, happy betting.